We bought a cow load of meat. Let's have a look. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I'm Rachel Heiser, the other half of the Heiser family, and sorry you don't have Florian tonight. He's feeling a bit under the weather, so he's asked me to put something together for you. So I am going to go through our latest bulk meat purchase. We've just bought a 4/4 of beef. So a 4/4 is a quarter of a cow, and it is the front quarter. So it's the chuck. So the chuck we got in some bit of steak and a bit of roast. Usually I like that to be diced. Then we got the shin, and we got that cut across as osso buco. And then we've got the blade. So I got them to cut the blade into steak, and I think I might have got a roast out of it as well. And then there's the ribs. So we got them just made as ribs, and then the rest of it as ribeye steak. I have, with this particular bit of the ribs, that you can get them to make this awesome roast where they strip back the bones, and so you get this you basically get a roast that where the bones stick out the top of it, and it's a really showy piece of meat that you can present to guests when they come over, and it tastes really yummy. So we got some ribs, and then the short ribs, so they were just cut between the bones, and they're like little stacks of meat. And the brisket, and I asked them to cut the brisket in half for me, and which in the past, when we got a smaller cow, that was fine, but this time the 4/4 was 55 kilos, so I ended up having to cut the brisket in half again because it was huge. So that's the thing, we tend to have a very meat heavy keto diet. We did do carnivore last month for a month, which I think suits us quite well, but I miss spices. I really miss garlic and cumin and flavour. So I think we'll be going back to more of a meat heavy keto. So that was my breakfast this morning. I had steak and eggs, and we've been getting adventurous. I cooked the family chicken hearts the other night, and they didn't really like it, but they ate it. And I do have to take the occasional shot of the kids eating their fruit. I do give them fruit just to keep my mother and my mother-in-law happy, because they honestly don't believe me when I say, yeah, they do have fruit. Because Florian and I don't tend to have very much fruit at all. So what we've got is I have done, as Florian would like to put it, he's like, you've done an unboxing. I'm like, okay, I guess I have. So when you're buying this much meat, it comes in boxes, and it doesn't look pretty. But it will be divided up into the cuts and labelled as to what they are. So if you do want the butcher to lay it out on lovely trays for you and divide it all up, they can, but they're going to charge you a higher rate to do that. So because it's the 4/4, this round cost us $8.50 a kilo, and we got that from the Rockley Market Butcher. And it's going to be different every time you go, because they will give you a quote, and then you accept the quote. So and they have to order it in. So this took a week to come in. It's not something that you will just turn up and they will have this amount of meat for you, butchered how you specify. So when we've gone to other butchers and paid up to $12.50 a kilo. For last time we paid $12.50, and that was for the whole beast, so forequarter and hindquarter, times 2. So we just didn't really want to turn on the big deep freezer. We just wanted to put it in our smaller upright freezer, so we just ordered the forequarter this time. And just ordering that bit is the most economical way to get steak. And if you are, like, we're a family of 6, so food makes up our largest personal expense after the mortgage. So if I can get our food budget down, I will. And I want to feed the family well, and I want to eat lovely food. So if you're going to have a lot of meat, buy it in bulk. Get a good freezer. So you'll see the first thing that I've done is I actually put on the I got the stock pot out, and I cooked up. I've put all the fat in there and all the bones, and I put some water. A tip for that is, when you are cooking, keep the ends of your onion and the skin and all your veggie scraps in a glad bag in the freezer, and then when you do your stock, you just empty the frozen veggie scraps into the stock pot, and then you don't need to add veggies. I put in a couple of carrots in there and whatever I had in the freezer, and as we've just been carnivore, there was like next to nothing in the freezer, so I put what was there in, and that will cook there until probably close to 48 hours. And I've also got another pot going where I am making some brine for the brisket, because when you order like this, unless you specifically say your brisket, and if you get the hindquarter, your silver side, none of it is going to come corned, and we like corned beef. So I make my own brine and soak the meat in that for a week. It goes grey, but it tastes good, and that's how we get our corned meat. Do it yourself. You know what's in it. So yeah, I do that probably early on, so that I'm just trying to find space in the fridge to put it. Did my shopping. That's another thing. We like to do one huge shop at the beginning of the month and try and get as much as we can for an entire month, and then do a top up shop on the 15th, and that way we're not going to the shops to get a little bit of milk here and maybe a carton of eggs, because every time you go to the shops to get 2 things, you end up walking away with 2 things and chocolate. And so I use this as a way to avoid the chocolate, and I don't get to the shops as much, so it actually saves us a lot of money in those little impulse buys by only buying the crap once a month. It's better for your health too, because you only eat the crap once a month, and when you run out, you run out. So the next thing you'll see is I label everything that I put in, and if I've put 2 steaks in a packet, I label it as 2 or 3 or 1. Just whatever you can do to make it easier when you want to take it out of the freezer, to know how much to take out will make your life a lot easier. And the flatter you can pack things, the quicker it will be to defrost. And you don't want to have to be waiting when the kids are crying because they're hungry and everything's frozen. So if you can pack it nice and flat, it will be a lot quicker to defrost. So this whole packing all the meat ended up taking me about 3 hours to get through it. It's one of those jobs where I don't get Florian to help me, because he won't do it right and he'll just annoy me. So he's better off just keeping me company and staying away or staying away, because it's just it's a single person job. I have, when we have gotten a larger amount, like a full side, if that gets delivered in the daytime, I will get help, because I don't like it sitting out. But this was we got this at night, so it wasn't as big a deal, and it's winter, so it's not quite as rushed as when you get it in summer and you're trying to pack all this meat up in Queensland in summer, and it's in the middle of the day, so you've really got to try and get it done as quick as you can. So that's my chuck, and that I'll probably dice as I defrost it for meals. I tend to use the chuck in slow cooks with I put it in with the ribs, and I put it in with the osso bocco, simply because the kids don't really like and they don't appreciate some of those fatty cuts with lots of ligaments in it. I like them because I like to think that all the collagen in the meat is good for my skin. So yeah, I just put the chuck in there so that the kids can eat that. So the last bit is the mince. So the mince I keep in 1 kilo bags, which I did until I ran out. So the last of it I did in 500 grams. But yeah, I used to do everything 500, but as more people are eating, we've got all 4 kids are eating now, that's just not enough for a meal. We need to cook 1 kilo of mince for a dinner. And also, you've got to remember, we don't have any rice or pasta, so it's the main meal, and you don't have any other foods filling it out. But yeah, fun and games. We ended up getting about 10.5 kilos of mince with this round. And what you'll see here is, as I go with making the stock, is I will actually scoop the fat off the top and start freezing that. That's tallow, because it's beef fat, and we use that to cook all of our beef. So we cook steak in beef fat, and it tastes beautiful. I wouldn't be cooking eggs in it or something else, because the fat has quite a strong flavour, and it smells. So if you don't want everything to smell and taste like beef, don't cook it in tallow, use butter or something else. And to buy that in the shops, Coles, you can buy beef drippings, and it's so expensive. It was like $4.60 for 250 grams. So I'm like, I'm not buying that. Give me my super fry. Yeah, so it's far cheaper to make your own tallow. I should really be straining it and putting it and filtering it before I freeze it, but I'm not that precious about it. I'll just scoop it off the top and freeze it up. I definitely strain the stock when that's ready, because it's got a lot of it would be pretty grotty if you didn't strain it. So what you'll see here is, once again, I flatten out the mince as flat as I can, and I try and get all the air out. So the more air you have with your meat, the more freezer burn you'll get. The longer it's in the freezer, the air is what causes the freezer burns. So I try to get all the air out as much as I can, and the flatter it is, the faster it will be to defrost. So the other thing to check is make sure your bags actually fit in your freezer before you use really big ones. These ones do, just, which is good. But yeah, you've got to get the air out as much as you can. As some people will actually soak the bags in water just to get the air out, but that's a bit too much for me. It's only going to be in there 2 months, so the freezer burn shouldn't really affect it by then. But if you were buying a full cow and you knew that it would be in the freezer for a fair bit of time, then I would probably be watching that. Oh, that's a bit fast. Let's take that a bit slower. So we'll put that back to the beginning and play. So this is me today, and as you can see, with all the kids around, this is why I have to do this at night. So I've still got the stock going. It's going right now. That will come off the boil or simmer tomorrow night. I'd like to do it tomorrow morning, but we're busy. And then this is what's in the freezer. So the top shelf, I've got baby food and some stock and some bread for the kids, and then I got some veggies and some seafood, and then the meat. So these are the roasts and brisket. So I got them all there. it's a good idea to put the weight on the roast when you're freezing them. It just makes it easier to kind of plan how long they're going to take to cook. That was all the mince, and this is the tallow and the steak, and then another drawer of steak and ribs and other nice cuts, and then at the bottom is my seafood and the zucchini muffins that no one wants to eat. And that's it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed watching our big cow unboxing, for lack of a better term, of what it looks like when you actually bring home a forequarter and the work that you then have to do. So for us, it's a no-brainer. At $8.50 a kilo, sure, I'll spend a couple of hours putting that all in glad bags and putting it in the freezer. It's better anyway, because if it came all on trays, I'd have to redo it just to fit it in the freezer. So yeah, it's great. We've been doing it for a couple of years. We've been getting meat in bulk, and I just really it's like meal planning without actually having to meal plan, because you just open up the freezer and see what you feel like. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more of me in the future, maybe Florine doesn't have to get sick for me to to jump in front of the camera. I'd love to see your comments below on what you'd like me to talk about. Are there any pressing issues that you would like to see from another perspective? And yeah, maybe you'll be able to convince me to get on again in the I won't be as prolific as Florian. I'm a homeschooling mum of 4. I don't have the capacity to get on every day, but I could make time to do it a little bit more than I have so far. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and we'll talk next time. And